Hi, so it's time for back in the library, and it's a rainy day, so apparently nobody wants to come out and play in the rain and hear a story. So we're going to share these stories on Zoom only. Somebody comes in later, they can join us. But until then, we're going to enjoy our two stories. The first one is called Enemy Pie. Let's get a little bit closer. And it's by Munson. Okay, there's two guys that play baseball. Looks like best buds, got their arms around each other. It should have been a perfect summer. My dad helped me build a tree house in our backyard. My sister was at camp for 3 whole weeks, and I was on the best baseball team in town. It should have been perfect summer, but it wasn't. It was all good until Jeremy Ross moved into the neighborhood right next door to my best friend Stanley. I did not like Jeremy Ross. He laughed at me when he struck me out in a baseball game. He had a party on his trampoline and I wasn't even invited. But my best friend Stanley was. Jeremy Ross was the one and only person on my enemy list. I never even had an enemy list until he moved into the neighborhood. But as soon as he came along, I needed one. I hung it up in my treehouse, and Jeremy Ross was not allowed to go. Okay, so Jeremy Ross, enemy number 1. Dad understood stuff like enemies. He told me that when he was my age, he had enemies too, but he knew of a way to get rid of them. I asked him to tell me how. Tell you how? I'll show you how, he said. He pulled a really old recipe book off the kitchen shelf. Inside, there was a worn-out scrap of paper with faded writing. Dad held it up and squinted at it. Enemy pie, he said, satisfied. I wonder what enemy pie is. Yes, do you know? Can you guess? You may be wondering what exactly is an enemy pie. I was wondering too. But Dad said the recipe was so secret, he couldn't even tell me. I decided it must be magic. I begged him to tell me something, anything. I will tell you this, he said. Enemy pie is the fastest known way to get rid of enemies. Now, of course, this got my mind working. What kinds of things? Disgusting things would I put into a pie for an enemy? I brought Dad some weeds from the garden. He just shook his head. I brought him earthworms and rocks, but he didn't think he needed those. I gave him the gum I've been chewing on all morning. He gave it right back to me. Not it. I went out to play alone. I shot baskets until the ball got stuck on the roof. I threw a boomerang that never came back to me. And all the while, I listened to the sounds of my dad chopping and stirring and blending the ingredients of enemy pie. This could be a great summer after all. Enemy pie was going to be awful. I tried to imagine how horrible it must smell, or worse yet, what it would look like. But when I was in the backyard looking for ladybugs, I smelled something really, really, really good. And as far as I could tell, it was coming from our kitchen. I was a bit confused. I went in to ask Dad what was wrong. Enemy pie shouldn't smell this good. But Dad was smart. If enemy pie smelled bad, your enemy would never eat it, he said. I could tell he'd made enemy pie before. Buzzer ran. Zzz. Dad put on the oven mitts and pulled the pie out of the oven. It looked like plain old pie. It looked good enough to eat. I was catching on. But still, I wasn't really sure how this enemy pie worked. What exactly did it do to enemies? Maybe it made their hair fall out. Or breath stinky. Maybe it made bullies cry. I asked Dad. He was no help. He wouldn't tell me a thing. But while the pie cooled, he filled me in on my job. So what's going to be his job? What do you think? He talked quietly. There is one part of enemy pie that I can't do. In order for it to work, you need to spend a day with your enemy. Even worse, you have to be nice to him. It's not easy, but that's the only way that enemy pie can work. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Of course I was. It sounded horrible. It was scary, but it was worth a try. All I had to do was spend one day with Jeremy Ross. Then he'd be out of my hair for the rest of my life. I rode my bike to his house and knocked on the door. When Jeremy opened the door, he seemed surprised. He stood on the other side of the screen door and looked at me, waiting for me to say something. I was nervous. Can you play? I asked. I looked confused. I'll go ask my mom, he said. He came back with his shoes in his hands. His mom walked around the corner to say hello. You boys stay out of trouble, she said, smiling. What's this all about? We rode bikes for a while and played on the trampoline. Then we made some water balloons and threw them at the neighbor girls. But we missed. Jeremy's mom made us lunch. After lunch, we went over to my house. It was strange, but I was kind of having fun with my enemy. He almost seemed nice. But of course, I couldn't tell Dad that, since he had worked so hard to make this enemy pie. Jeremy Ross liked my basketball hoop. He said he wished he had a basketball hoop, but they didn't have room for one. I let him win a game, just to be nice. Jeremy Ross knew how to throw a boomerang. He threw it and it came right back to him. I threw it and it went over my house and into the backyard. When we climbed over the fence to find it, the first thing Jeremy noticed was my tree house. Uh-oh. My tree house was my tree house. I was the boss. If my sister wanted in, I didn't have to let her. If my dad wanted in, I didn't have to let him. And if Jeremy wanted in, can we go in it? He asked. I knew he was going to ask me that, but he was the top person, the only person on my enemy list, and enemies aren't allowed in my treehouse. But he did teach me how to throw a boomerang, and he did have me over for lunch, and he did let me play on his trampoline. He wasn't being a very good enemy. Okay, I said, but hold on. What's he gonna do? Climbed up ahead of him and tore the enemy list off the wall. I had a checkerboard and some cards in the treehouse, and we played games until my dad called us down for dinner. We pretended we didn't hear him, and when he came out to get us, we tried to hide from him. Somehow he found us. That's a good at that. Hello. Want to hear a story? Dad made us macaroni and cheese for dinner. My favorite. It was Jeremy's favorite, but maybe Jeremy wasn't so bad after all. I was beginning to maybe think that maybe we should forget about enemy pie. But sure enough, after dinner, Dad brought out the pie. I watched as he cut the pie into 8 slices. Dad, I said, it sure is nice having a new friend in the neighborhood. I was trying to get his attention, to tell him that Jeremy was no longer my enemy. But Dad only smiled and nodded. I think he thought I was just fooling. Dad dished up 3 plates side by side with big pieces of pie and giant scoops of ice cream. He passed one to me and one to Jeremy. Wow, Jeremy said, looking at the pie. My dad never makes pies like this. It was at this point I panicked. I didn't want Jeremy to eat enemy pie. He was my friend. I couldn't let him eat it. Jeremy, don't eat it. It's bad pie. I think it's got poison or something. Jeremy's fork stopped before reaching his mouth. He crumpled his eyebrows and looked at me funny. I felt relieved. I had saved his life. I was a hero. He was mad at this thing is the story is he didn't like this one guy, so his dad made enemy pie, made him have to play all day with his dad, and then he decided he was make this enemy pie to get rid of the enemy. And it's so bad, Jeremy asked. Then why has your dad already eaten half of it? I turned back to look at my dad. Sure enough, he was eating enemy pie. Good stuff, he mumbled through a mouthful, and that was all he said. I sat there watching them eat enemy pie for a few seconds. Dad was laughing. Jeremy was happily eating, and neither of them was losing any hair. It seemed safe enough, so I took a tiny bite. Enemy pie was delicious. So you think Dad had a reason why he made something good? After dessert, Jeremy rode his bike home, but not before inviting me over to play on his trampoline in the morning. He said he'd teach me how to flip. As for enemy pie, I still don't know how to make it. Still wonder if enemies really do hate it, or if their hair falls out, or their breath turns bad. But I don't know if I'll ever get my answer, because I just lost my enemy. So, What do you think? Can you guess from what part you heard of the story? What happened in the story? What happened? The boy said at the beginning is he hated this new boy in town. He just hated him, and he was enemy number one. And his dad said he could tell him how to get rid of his enemy, and that's to make enemy pie. But first, he had to play with the boy all day long. And then they would eat enemy pie and get rid of the enemy the fastest. So they played together. What do you think? What do you think? When dad told him part of getting rid of his enemy is he had to be nice to the boy. So what do you think? If he was being nice to him and they're playing all day, what happened to the enemy? What do you think in the story? The best way to get rid of the enemy is to be what to them? Yeah. So, and so his dad like, oh, you know, this pie, it'll work. It'll get rid of your enemy, but you gotta be nice to them. You gotta play with them all day. So isn't that a fun story? And the second one is called Jungle Drums. On Facebook. So it's by Graeme. This is Magiro Madogo. Small, isn't he? He's the smallest warthog in Africa. These are the bigger warthogs. They tease Magiro about being so small. But that's only because they're jealous of the other animals who live across the river with their stunning spots, striking stripes, impressive horns, and curly trunks, graceful necks, and gorgeous hooves. So, when you don't feel happy about yourself, you're jealous of other people, maybe they find it better to be mean to someone else. What do you think? Here are their other animals who live across the river. They're gorgeous, aren't they? Every year, the other animals hold a grand parade with prizes for the most beautiful. Warthogs don't even bother entering. Mud wrestling isn't on the program. So what do you think? Aren't they beautiful with their spots and stripes? Beautiful unlocked. Tired of being teased. Tired of being teased, Hero heads across the river to play with the other animals. They are arguing among themselves about who is the most beautiful. They turn and stare at Yuri. No spots! Laughs Chew the leopard. No stripes! Winda Milia the zebra. Look at those silly little horns, snorts Kafari the rhino. He hasn't even got a trumpets, Tembo the elephant. Or a neck, scoffs Squiggle the giraffe. Isn't he just the ugliest thing you've ever seen? Crows Nedge the crested crane. And small, too. They all laugh at him. Is that a nice thing to do? Hero heads for home. He is not happy. On the way, he meets old Bumblebee, the bumblebees, the oldest and wisest animal in the jungle. I hate being so small, he tells her. Everyone teases me. Old Bumblebee gets out a little set of bongos. These are magic drums, she says. If you play them, they will give you whatever you wish for. Do you want them? Oh, yes, cries Nickery. I do. He takes the drums in eager pose. Old Nugumba has a twinkle in her eye. Just remember, she says, wishes come true, but not always as you expect. and she gently fades into the bush. Get magic drums, get whatever you want. That's a cool idea. Sound of jungle drums. Through the night. Oh, he's playing those drums. Can you pretend to play them on the table? Can you try to play drums? Oh, great. There he is. He's playing them. But in the morning, despite all his wishing, little Nagiro, his theory is exactly the same. Then he hears a commotion in the jungle. The other animals have woken up to find their stunning spots and striking stripes, impressive horns, and curly trunks, graceful necks, and gorgeous plumage have all disappeared. And they are very upset about it. What happens if you woke up and you look different than you did the day before? You wouldn't be very happy either, right? What? Everything's gone. Warthogs, meanwhile, have woken up with stunning spots and striking stripes, impressive horns, and curly trunks, graceful necks, gorgeous plumage. They think they look fabulous. Here's Nagiri Madogo. They laugh as he trots up, small as ever and oh so plain. But we are just like the other animals now. We're going to enter the grand parade and teach them a lesson in jungle style. They look a little strange, huh? When the other animals learn on the jungle grapevine that the warthogs are going to enter the grand parade, they're horrified. Look at us, they cry in dismay. Those awful warthogs will win every prize. It will be a complete disaster. They try making fake markings out of sticks and grass and colored mud, but it all washes off in the evening downpour. Try to put spots on themselves. Look at the river looks awfully pretty though, doesn't it? Warthogs parade along the riverbank in their newfound finery. You stole our markings, yelled the other animals. Give them back. They're not your markings, they are, smirked the warthogs. They fell from the sky, and now we are the most beautiful animals in the jungle. They belong to us, growled the other animals. If you don't get them back before the grand parade, we will come and take them. Lord Nagiri, what have you done? It's not even straight warthogs. They look kind of odd, don't they? On the spots. Wild African moon comes up. Jungle drums beat out again over the savannah. Play the magic drums. You guys play it again? What's going to happen? Magic drums go off again. Any ideas? Still dark as Yuri creeps over to where the other animals are sleeping. He breathes a sigh of relief to see the stunning spots and striking stripes, impressive horns, and curly trunks, graceful necks, and gorgeous plumage. Then the animals stir and sit up. The markings are on the wrong animals. It's the warthogs who have done this, cried the other animals. They put a spell on us. They stomp off angrily across the river. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? I didn't hear your steps. That's that. That's that. Meanwhile, the warthogs are in a terrible state. What happened to my nose? What happened to my neck? How can I roll in the mud with these feathers? Can't run with this great long trunk. I'll end up as someone's dinner for sure. The warthogs have become even more like the other animals they admire so much. They put a spell on us. They stomp off angrily across the river. It would be kind of hard to roll in the mud with feathers. What have you done to us? Demanded the warthogs. What have you done to us? Demand the other animals. Everyone is shouting at once. Stop it! Cries Negiro Madogo in a squeaky voice. It was me! All of the animals stop and look at him in amazement. He tells them about the magic drums. Magic drums? I made a wish, 2 wishes in fact, though they went wrong. I wanted you all to stop teasing me. I didn't mean for you to start fighting. Why can't you be happy the way you are? Because we look ridiculous, says everyone together. We want to be the way we were. Well, says he very thoughtfully, you'd all be happier that way. I suppose I could try making one more wish. The 3rd time, the sound of jungle drums echoes through the still light. Play the drums again. Sun rises over the rim of the world. The warthogs and the other animals wake up and look around with relief. They are all back to normal. But the weary Madogo sighs. After all that trouble, he is still exactly the same. Smallest warthog in Africa. Something has changed though. No one's teasing it anymore. The bigger warthogs and the other animals look at Negiro and then at each other. Then they shrug. So what if he's the littlest? Someone has to be. What happened? That evening, the grand parade goes ahead as usual. The other animals who live across the river show off their stunning spots and striking stripes and impressive horns and curly trunks, graceful necks, and gorgeous plumage. The warthogs clap, yay, and cheer. That's different, right? We didn't cheer before. Then the warthogs put on a mud wrestling display, including a very clever mud pyramid with a mud fountain, and the other animals clap and cheer, yay! Wow, this is pretty unusual. They're all doing what for each other? Cheering? Instead of being jealous or angry or free. Then the hero does a drum solo, but is very careful not to wish for anything just in case. And everyone claps and cheers, and the night is a roaring success. The end. So, there's actually a kind of a fun thing in this book. This is as everything really back to normal. The warthogs still not quite the way they had been before Negiri made his wishes. They really were the other animals. In fact, if you look very carefully, you'll find that every creature watching was simply trees changed after Negiri played his magic drums. Looking closer, and you might also find all the wildebeest hidden somewhere on every page. Back in the jungle we go. So then it talks about the Swahili's pronunciations. So, kind of a fun book. So, what do you guys think of this story? It was okay? What do you think the point of the story was? Yeah, be nice to each other. And I thought was interesting is they said, oh, you know, war dogs, oh, they live here, they can't compete, and then the other animals, some animals said, well, the other animals always win, and you know, we don't. And everybody was, I don't know, was anybody happy? They did what? Because they showed they weren't happy because they did what? They do teasing. Do happy people tease other people? Making somebody unhappy really doesn't feel good inside, does it? So, I think what they discovered was that being the way you are is what you're used to, and it's perfect for you, right? Because warlocks they love wrestling, and they wouldn't be able to do that if they looked different. And so being yourself is really the most important thing. And like you said, being what? Being nice. Be nice to others. You know? And then everybody was clapping for him. They went from everybody teasing Nagiri for being the littlest. And what was the comment about Nagiri? He was still the littlest, but what did he say? What did they say? Yeah, someone's got to be the littlest anyway, right? So what does that sound like? To me, it sounds like, is there a word for that? Any idea? To me, it sounds like acceptance. Accepting who you are, accepting others for who they are. You only heard part of enemy pie. Which one do you think was the best? You like enemy pie? Okay, so we have a craft today, and there's some animals that are out there. So you can make there's a craft. Want to do it? Want to make an animal? I got some more. So we're going to make a craft, and thank you for joining us today at back in the library, and come join us next week at 6 o'clock for a story and a craft. See you then.
Hi. I got some other animals. I can see if